He looked at Admiral Chun one more time. The human was old and small and would be dead in a few decades. His species had only been in space for 300 years. By every measure, he should be terrified. He was not terrified. He was ready. Vethka felt something he had never felt before when looking at a primitive species. He felt worried. The Zorani ship left Earth the same way it had arrived, silently and suddenly. One moment it was there, blocking out the sun. The next moment it was gone, leaving nothing but empty sky. Admiral Chen did not watch it go. He was already in the command center, giving orders. I want every ship we have at full readiness within 24 hours. I want the orbital defense grid active. I want production facilities working triple shifts. And I want a meeting with every military leader on Earth. Sir, one of his officers said carefully, do you really think they'll attack? Maybe they were just trying to scare us. Chun looked at the officer. The young man was maybe 25 years old. He had grown up in an era of peace. He had never seen real war. Son, Chun said, I've been a soldier for 40 years. I've met a lot of people who wanted to hurt me. Some of them were bluffing. Some of them weren't. You know how I can tell the difference? The officer shook his head. The ones who are bluffing make threats and then wait to see what you do. The ones who aren't bluffing don't make threats at all. They just act. He turned back to the screen showing Earth's defenses. That alien didn't make a threat. He made a promise. He said the Concorde would respond appropriately. That means they've already decided what to do. They decided before they even got here. This visit wasn't a negotiation. It was a formality. Then why offer us membership at all? Chun smiled grimly. Because it looks better. When they write the history, they can say they gave us a chance. They can say we refused. They can say everything that happens next is our own fault. He picked up a communication device and spoke into it. This is Admiral Chun. I am declaring a state of maximum emergency. All military personnel report to duty stations. All civilian defense plans are now active. This is not a drill. He put down the device and looked at Earth through the command center window. 7 billion people live down there. 7 billion people who had never seen an alien before today. 7 billion people who had no idea what was coming. We have maybe 2 weeks, Chun said to no one in particular. Maybe less. They'll want to make an example of us. They'll send everything they have. His executive officer, Captain Rodriguez, stepped up beside him. Sir, can we win? Chen was quiet for a long moment. No, he said finally. We can't win. We don't have enough ships. We don't have the technology. We don't have the numbers. Rodriguez's face went pale. Then what do we do? Chun turned to look at him. His eyes were hard, but his voice was calm. We make them pay for every inch. We make this the most expensive victory in their history. We make them remember Earth for the next 1,000,000 years. He turned back to the window. And maybe, just maybe, we find a way to survive. Not because we're stronger. Not because we're smarter. But because we're too stubborn to die. The news spread across Earth within hours. Aliens were real. They had offered humanity a place in their empire. Humanity had refused. Now war was coming. There was panic at first. There always is. Some people ran. Some people screamed. Some people prayed to gods they had forgotten about. But then something else happened. Something the Zorani had not expected. Something that would have confused them if they had seen it. Humans started working together. Factories that had been rivals began sharing resources. Scientists who had argued for decades started collaborating. Countries that had been enemies for centuries put aside their differences. Within 1 week, Earth was more united than it had ever been in human history. They knew they were going to lose. Everyone knew it. The math was simple. A few hundred ships against millions. A young species against an ancient empire. There was no way to win. But humans had never been good at accepting the impossible. In every city, in every country, people worked. They built ships. They built weapons. They built defenses. They did not sleep. They did not rest. They knew time was running out. And in their hearts, they made a simple promise. If we die, we do not die quietly. If we fall fighting. And if the galaxy wants to take our future, they will have to earn it with blood. Far away, in the heart of the galactic concord, 3 fleets were gathering. 60,000 warships. The largest military force assembled in 10,000 years. More firepower than most species would see in their entire history. They were called the Integration Fleet. Their job was simple: bring primitive species into the Concord, whether they wanted to come or not. Fleet Commander Vethoan stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the coordinates on his screen. A small yellow star. A tiny blue planet. A species that had just made the biggest mistake of its very short existence. He had done this 800 times before. It was always the same. The primitive species would fight for a while. Then they would realize they could not win. Then they would surrender. Then they would spend the next 10,000 years learning their place. Sometimes he felt guilty about it, but not often. This was the way of the galaxy. The strong ruled. The weak served. It had always been this way. It would always be this way. He gave the order to move. 60,000 ships turned toward Earth. The war was about to begin, and the galaxy was about to learn something new about fear. The ship came out of nowhere. One moment, the sky above Geneva was clear and blue. The next moment, something massive blocked out the sun. It was bigger than any building on Earth. It was bigger than most cities. The shadow it cast covered half of Switzerland. People stopped walking. Cars stopped moving. The whole world held its breath. Admiral Marcus Chen was eating lunch when his phone rang. 3 minutes later, he was in a helicopter. 10 minutes after that, he was in the United Earth Command Center, watching the largest object humanity had ever seen hover silently above their planet. "It's not attacking," said Dr. Sarah Webb, the lead scientist. Her voice was calm, but her hands were shaking. "It's just waiting." "Waiting for what?" Chun asked. The answer came 30 seconds later. A beam of light shot down from the ship and touched the ground in front of the United Nations building. When the light faded, 5 beings stood there. They were tall. Very tall. The shortest one was at least 8 feet. Their skin was pale blue, and their eyes were completely black. They wore robes made of something that looked like liquid silver. They looked like gods. The leader stepped forward. His name, humanity would later learn, was Ambassador Kethavala of the Zerani Dominion. He had visited 400 worlds in his long life. He had welcomed 200 species into the galactic concord. He had watched 30 species refuse and then disappear from history. He expected this visit to be simple. The United Earth Council gathered in the main chamber. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, scientists, every important human was there. Admiral Chun stood at the back, watching quietly. He did not like what he saw. The aliens moved like they owned the room. They looked at humans the way humans looked at insects. There was no respect in their eyes. There was barely any interest. Kethavala spoke first. His voice was deep and smooth, and somehow everyone could understand him perfectly. "We are the Zerani," he said. "We speak for the Galactic Concord. The Concord is an alliance of 4,000 species. We have ruled this galaxy for 800,000 years. We have brought peace and order to 1 billion worlds." He paused and looked around the room. His black eyes showed nothing. "We have been watching your species for some time. You are young. You are primitive. but you have potential. The Concord has decided to offer you membership. There was a murmur of excitement in the room. Contact with alien life. Membership in a galactic alliance. It was everything humanity had dreamed of. But Admiral Chun noticed something. Katavala had not said equal membership. He had not said partnership. He had said, offer you membership, the same way someone might offer a dog a treat. Secretary General Amara. Asay stepped forward. She was a small woman, but she had led Earth through 3 major crises. She was not easily impressed. We are honored by your offer, she said carefully. What would membership mean for humanity? Katavala smiled. It was not a kind smile. As new members, humans would serve the Concord for a period of adjustment. Perhaps 10,000 years. During this time, you would provide labor for our construction projects. Your young people would serve in our auxiliary forces. Your scientists would work under the guidance of superior species. Your worlds would be administered by Concord governors. The room went very quiet. In exchange, Katavala continued, you would receive protection, technology, access to galactic trade. Eventually, after you have proven your worth, you would be granted limited self-governance. Secretary General Oze's face did not change, but her voice became very cold. You are asking us to become servants. We are offering you survival, Katavala said. His smile disappeared. The galaxy is not a safe place for primitive species. There are dangers you cannot imagine. The Concord protects its members. Those who refuse protection do not last long. Admiral Chun pushed through the crowd and stood next to the Secretary General. He was not supposed to speak, but he could not stay silent. Let me make sure I understand, he said. You want us to give up our freedom, our worlds, and our future. In exchange, you will let us live as your workers. And if we refuse, something bad will happen to us. Katavala looked at Chun the way someone might look at a talking animal, surprised, but not impressed. You are a military officer, Katavala said. You should understand power. The Concord has millions of warships. You have perhaps a few hundred. We have weapons that can destroy planets. You have weapons that can barely scratch our shields. This is not a negotiation. This is an opportunity. The only opportunity you will receive. Chun smiled. It was the smile of a man who had fought in 3 wars and buried too many friends. Thank you for explaining, he said. Now let me explain something to you. Humanity has been fighting since before we could write. We fought animals. We fought nature. We fought each other. We fought diseases that killed half our population. We fought through ice ages and world wars and everything in between. And we're still here. He stepped closer to Katavala. The alien was 2 feet taller than him, but somehow Chun seemed bigger. You think you can scare us with your big ships and your old empire? Ambassador, we have been scaring ourselves for 10,000 years. You are nothing new. The room was completely silent. Kathavala's black eyes studied Chun for a long moment. Then he turned to Secretary General Asay. Is this the official position of your species? Refusal? Asay looked at Chun. Chun looked at the other leaders in the room. Slowly, one by one, they nodded. We respectfully decline your offer, Asay said. We will maintain our independence. We hope we can establish a relationship of equals with the Concord in the future. Katavala made a sound that might have been a laugh. There will be no future relationship, he said. You have made your choice. The Concord will respond appropriately. He turned and walked toward the door. His 4 companions followed. But one of them, a younger alien with slightly darker blue skin, paused and looked back at the humans. His name was Vethkel, and he was Kathavala's assistant. His job was to study new species and report on their capabilities. He had studied the files on humanity during the journey to Earth. Most of it was boring. Primitive technology, short lifespans, limited territory. The one thing had caught his attention: their history. Every other species Vethkel had studied showed the same pattern. They fought wars when they were young. Then they grew up. They became peaceful. They focused on art and science and philosophy. By the time they met the Concord, they had usually forgotten how to fight. Humans were different. They had not stopped fighting. Not ever. They had world wars within living memory. They had weapons that could destroy their own cities, and they had actually used them. They had killed more of their own species than most galactic plagues, and they were still here. Still building. Still growing. Still fighting. Vethkel had mentioned this to Kalevala during the journey. The ambassador had laughed. Every young species is violent, Kalevala had said. They grow out of it. The humans are no different. But Vethkel was not so sure. They came out of the darkness like stars being born. First there were 10, then 100, then 1,000, then so many that no one could count them anymore. The edge of the solar system filled with light as 60. 1,000 Zerani warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel and began their slow march toward Earth. Admiral Chun stood in the command center and watched them come. His face showed nothing. His hands did not shake. He had known this moment was coming for 12 days. He had prepared for it as well as anyone could prepare for the end of the world. How long until they reach Earth? He asked. At their current speed, approximately 47 hours, his tactical officer replied. They're not rushing. They want us to see them coming. Chun nodded. That made sense. The Zerani wanted to break human morale before the fighting even started. They wanted humanity to look at that impossible fleet and give up. They did not understand humans at all. Open a channel to all ships, Chun said. All stations. All defense platforms. Everyone. His communications officer nodded. Channel open, sir. Chun took a deep breath. Somewhere out there, 100,000 human soldiers were listening. They were on ships that were too small. They had weapons that were too weak. They were facing an enemy that had never lost. They were terrified, so was he. This is Admiral Chun, he said. By now, you've all seen what's coming. 60,000 ships. The largest fleet the galaxy has ever assembled. They're coming here because we refuse to be slaves. They're coming here because we chose freedom over survival. He paused and looked at the screen. The alien fleet was beautiful in a terrible way. Like a storm. Like a fire. Like death itself, dressed in lights. I'm not going to lie to you. We're going to lose. We don't have enough ships. We don't have the technology. By every measure that matters, this war is already over. His officers looked at each other nervously. This was not a normal speech. But here's the thing about humans, Chung continued. We've never been good at math. We don't know how to lose. We don't know how to give up. When something is impossible, we do it anyway. That's who we are. That's who we've always been. He straightened his shoulders. Today, we're going to show the galaxy what that means. We're going to teach them a lesson they will never forget. We're going to make them understand that some species cannot be conquered. Not because we're the strongest. Not because we're the smartest. But because we would rather die than kneel. His voice grew harder. They think they're here to start a war. They're wrong. They're here to learn what war really means. So let's teach them. He turned to his tactical officer. All ships, advance. Full attack formation. For a moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, the human fleet began to accelerate. 347 ships against 60,000. Moving forward. Not retreating. Not hiding. Attacking. Fleet commander. Vethorn watched the human ships approach and felt something he had not felt in 800 campaigns. Confusion. Double quotes. What are they doing? He asked his tactical officer. They appear to be attacking, Commander. That's impossible. They must know they can't win. Yes, Commander. They must know. Vethorn stared at the screen. In his experience, primitive species behaved in predictable ways. When faced with overwhelming force, they retreated. They fortified. They tried to negotiate. Sometimes they scattered and ran. Sometimes they surrendered immediately. They never attacked. Perhaps it's a trick, his second-in-command suggested. Perhaps they're trying to draw us into a trap. Vethorn considered this. It was possible. But what kind of trap could 300 ships set for 60,000? What could they possibly do that would make any difference? Continue our advance, he ordered. Standard conquest formation. Let them come. Let them throw themselves against our shields. When they realize it's hopeless, they'll surrender. The two fleets moved toward each other. The distance closed. 1 million kilometers? 500,000. 100,000. The humans did not slow down. They're not stopping, the tactical officer said. His voice was uncertain now. Commander, they're accelerating. They're coming right at us. Vethorn frowned. Open fire when they're in range. Destroy the lead ships. The rest will break. The Zerani fleet opened fire. Space filled with light. Thousands of weapons fired at once, creating a wall of energy that no ship could survive. The first human ships flew straight into it. They exploded. 10 ships, 20, 50, one after another. They died in flashes of light, and the rest kept coming. They're not breaking, the tactical officer said. His voice was higher now, almost frightened. Commander, they're not breaking. They're still attacking. Impossible. No species is this foolish. Look at the targeting data, Commander. Vethorn looked, and for the first time in his very long life, he felt fear. The human ships were not attacking randomly. They were not trying to destroy as many Zerani ships as possible. They were targeting specific vessels. Command ships. Communication hubs. Fleet coordination centers. They were going for the head. They're trying to kill our leadership, Vethorn realized. They know they can't win, so they're trying to take us with them. He gave rapid orders. Protect the command ships. All escort vessels, defensive formation, now. But it was too late. A human destroyer, damaged and burning, broke through the defensive line. It was heading straight for a Zerani battlecruiser, the coordination center for the entire left flank. Destroy that ship, Vethorn shouted. Weapons fire hit the destroyer. Its shields failed. Its hull cracked. It was dying. It did not stop. With its last remaining power, the destroyer accelerated. It pushed its engines past every safety limit. It flew faster than any ship its size should be able to fly, and then it hit the battlecruiser at nearly 1% of light speed. The explosion was visible from Earth. Vethorn stared at the screen. 3,000 Zerani soldiers had been on that battlecruiser. They were all dead. Killed by a ship that should have surrendered. Killed by a species that should have given up. Commander, his tactical officer said quietly, we've lost 17 command ships in the last hour. The humans they're targeting them specifically. They're sacrificing 10 ships to destroy one of ours. That doesn't make sense. That's not how wars are fought. No, Commander. It's not. The battle lasted 9 days. 9 days of constant fighting. 9 days of death. 9 days that would change the galaxy forever. The humans lost everything. Every ship. Every station. Every defense platform. One by one, they were destroyed. The Zerani had too many ships, too much firepower. There was no way to stop them, but the humans did not stop fighting. When their warships were destroyed, they used civilian vessels, cargo haulers, mining ships, transport shuttles. Anything that could fly, they turned into a weapon. When their ships were gone, they used the orbital stations. They turned telescopes into targeting systems. They turned research labs into ammunition factories. They turned space hotels into weapons platforms. When the stations were destroyed, they used the ground, hidden bunkers, mobile launchers, weapons that had been built in secret, waiting for this moment. And when everything else was gone, they used themselves. Commander Elena Vasquez was the captain of the cargo hauler Lucky Star. She was 62 years old. She had 3 grandchildren on Earth. She had spent her whole life moving freight between planets. She had never been a soldier. On the 7th day of the battle, she received new orders. Her ship was being retrofit with a faster-than-light drive from a destroyed military vessel. She knew what that meant. Her first officer, a young man named James, looked at her with fear in his eyes. "Captain, they want us to—" "I know what they want," she said quietly. "I've seen the fleet dispositions. I know where we're going. The Zorani flagship." "Captain, that's suicide." "Yes." She looked at him. "You don't have to come. None of you have to come. I can fly this ship alone." James was quiet for a long moment. Then he shook his head. "My daughter is down there," he said. "On Earth, she's 7 years old. If we don't stop them here, they'll take her. They'll make her a slave." He looked at the rest of the crew. They were all civilians. Freight handlers, engineers, cooks. None of them had signed up for this. None of them moved. "We're with you, Captain," said Maria, the chief engineer. "Let's show these aliens what humans are made of." Vasquez nodded. She felt tears in her eyes, but she did not let them fall. Set course for the Zorani flagship. Maximum acceleration. Prepare for FTL, jump on my command. The Lucky Star was a small ship. It was not built for combat. It had no weapons, no shields, no armor. But it had a faster-than-light drive. And it had a crew that was not afraid to die. Vethorn saw the cargo hauler coming. His tactical officers identified it as a non-combat vessel. A civilian ship. No threat at all. Then they detected the FTL signature. "It's preparing to jump." Someone shouted. "It's going to—" The Lucky Star jumped. In normal FTL travel, a ship accelerates to faster-than-light speed far from any other objects. Jumping too close to another ship is considered impossible. The gravitational effects would tear both vessels apart. Commander Vasquez knew this. She jumped anyway. The Lucky Star emerged from FTL inside the Zorani flagship. For 1/1,000,000th of a second, both ships existed in the same space. Then physics took over. The energy release was beyond calculation. The explosion destroyed the flagship instantly. It destroyed 30 ships nearby. It created a wave of radiation that damaged hundreds more. Vethorn survived only because his ship was on the other side of the fleet. He watched the explosion through his view screen and felt something cold settle in his stomach. This was not war as he understood it. This was not rational. This was not logical. This was not the behavior of any species in the Concorde's long history. This was something new, and it terrified him. By the end of the 9th day, the battle was over. The humans had lost. Every last ship was destroyed. Every station was silent. The orbital defenses were gone. But the Zorani fleet was broken. They had started with 60,000 ships. They had lost 34,000. More than half their forces destroyed by a species that had no right to last more than a few hours. Vethorn looked at the numbers and could not believe them. He had conquered 800 worlds. He had faced species with better technology, larger populations, more resources. None of them had cost him more than 2,000 ships. And now, staring at the ruins of his fleet, he realized something terrible. The humans had not been trying to win. They had known from the beginning that they could not win. They had known they were going to die. And they had decided that if they were going to die, they would make sure the Zerani died with them. That was not courage. That was something else. Something deeper. Something darker. It was hate. Not the hot hate of anger. The cold hate of a species that had decided its enemy would not enjoy the victory. The calculating hate of people who measured their success not in ships saved, but in enemies destroyed. Vethorn had seen many things in his long life. He had seen species fight bravely. He had seen species fight cleverly. He had seen species fight with desperation and fear. He had never seen a species fight like this. "Commander," his communications officer said, "we're receiving a transmission from the planet. On screen." Admiral Chun's face appeared. He was old. He was tired. He was clearly wounded. There was blood on his uniform and burns on his face. The room behind him was damaged, filled with smoke and broken equipment. But he was smiling. "Fleet Commander Vethorn," Chun said, "I'm calling to offer you a chance to surrender." Vethorn stared at him. "You're offering me surrender? I have 26,000 ships remaining. You have nothing." "That's true," Chun agreed. "But let me ask you something. How many ships did you expect to lose today?" Vethorn did not answer. "I'm guessing not 34,000. I'm guessing not more than half your fleet. I'm guessing you expected this to be easy." Chun leaned closer to the camera. "Now look at your fleet. Look at what we did with 300 ships. And ask yourself, what would we do with 3,000? With 30,000? With 3 million? His smile faded. "You can take Earth today. Maybe. If you're willing to lose another 10,000 ships, fighting through our planetary defenses. You can kill every human on this planet. But you know what you can't do. You can't kill the humans on our colony worlds. You can't kill the humans who are already running, hiding, building, planning. You can't kill the idea of us." He pointed at Vethorn through the screen. "We are going to remember this day. We are going to remember what you did. And we are going to spend every moment of every day for the rest of our existence getting ready for the next time you come." His eyes were hard. "So here's my offer. Leave. Go back to your Concord. Tell them what happened here. Tell them what humans are. And pray to whatever gods you believe in that we never come looking for you." The transmission ended. Vethorn sat in silence for a long moment. Then he called his fleet commanders. "We're withdrawing," he said. "Commander?" His second-in-command looked shocked. "We have 26,000 ships. The planet is defenseless. We can still lose another 10,000 soldiers?" Vethorn interrupted. "We can still give them more time to study our tactics. We can still let them capture more of our technology." He shook his head. "I've conquered 800 worlds. I know when a victory costs too much. This victory costs too much." He turned back to the view screen, where Earth hung blue and white against the darkness. "And I know something else. That human was right. We can take that planet, but we cannot kill their spirit. We cannot break their will. And as long as one of them survives, they will be coming for us." He gave the order. "All ships, retreat." The Zerani fleet turned and left. For the first time in 12,000 years, they retreated from a primitive species. For the first time in their history, they left a world unconquered. And across the galaxy, other species watched. They saw the mighty Zerani run. They saw a primitive species stand against impossible odds. They saw something they had never seen before. They saw fear. Not human fear. Zorani fear. The galaxy would never be the same. Vethorn's final report to the Concorde was brief. It was classified at the highest level. It would not be declassified for 300 years. But one line from it leaked. One line spread across 1,000 worlds. One line became the most famous sentence in galactic history. "They don't fight to win," Vethorn had written. "They fight to ensure we lose." This is something new. This is something we should all fear. And he was right. 50 years passed to humans. 50 years was a long time. Children were born who knew the war only from history books. Cities were rebuilt. Ships were constructed. Life went on to the galaxy. 50 years was nothing. Most species in the Concorde lived for thousands of years. To them, the battle at Earth was yesterday. The wound was still fresh. The shame was still burning. The Zorani Dominion had never retreated before. Now they had. From primitives. From a species that had only been in space for 3 centuries. From humans. Other species began to whisper. Some laughed at the Zorani. Some worried about what it meant. Some began to wonder, if the humans could do that to the mighty Zorani, what could they do to us? The Concorde did not attack Earth again. Not because they were afraid. That was what they told themselves. They simply had other priorities. More important matters. The humans were contained in their little corner of space. They were no threat to anyone. That was what the Concorde believed. They were wrong. Commander Yuki Tanaka was 43 years old. She had been a child during the war. Too young to fight, but old enough to remember. She remembered the sky filled with light as ships burned. She remembered the announcements of death tolls. She remembered her father leaving for his ship and never coming back. She had spent her entire adult life preparing for the next war. Now she commanded the U.S. Perseverance, one of humanity's new explorer vessels. Fast, quiet, equipped with the best stealth technology human scientists could create. Her mission was simple. Go where humans had never gone. Learn what the galaxy was hiding. She found something terrible. The coordinates had come from a damaged Zorani computer core, recovered from a wrecked ship during the war. It had taken decades to decrypt. The file was labeled Integration Records Sector 7742. Tanaka took her ship to those coordinates. What she found there made her want to cry. "Commander," her science officer said softly, "I'm reading ruins, massive ruins, covering 3 planets. Life signs? None. The planets are dead." Tanaka stared at the view screen. 3 worlds. 3 civilizations. All gone. Nothing left but empty buildings and bones. "Can you identify the species?" Her science officer worked at his console for a long moment. According to the Zorani records, this sector was home to the Volanti. They were a spacefaring civilization. Approximately 4,000 years old when the Concorde contacted them. What happened to them? They refused integration. The Concorde removed them. Tanaka felt cold. Removed them? All of them? Yes, Commander. The records indicate that the Volanti population was approximately 12 billion at the time of contact. The integration process took 17 years. When it was complete, the Volanti no longer existed. Tanaka sat down heavily in her command chair. 12 billion people. An entire species. Wiped out because they said no. She thought about Earth. 8 billion people. What would have happened if the Zorani had won? Would there be a file somewhere labeled Integration Records, Sol System? Would some alien explorer visit Earth in 1,000 years and find nothing but ruins and bones? How many others? She asked quietly. Commander, how many other species did the Concorde remove? How many worlds like this are there? Her science officer checked the Zorani records. The files reference 847 other integration failures. Each one resulted in removal. 847 species, gone, erased, as if they had never existed. Tanaka closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were hard. Download everything. Every file. Every record. Every piece of data we can find. Then set course for home. What are we going to do with this information, Commander? Tanaka looked at the dead worlds on her view screen. We're going to make sure this never happens again. Not to us. Not to anyone. Admiral Chun was 89 years old. His hair was white. His hands sometimes shook. The burns he had received during the war had never fully healed, but his mind was still sharp. And when Commander Tanaka showed him what she had found, his eyes burned with the same fire they had held 50 years ago. 800 species, he said quietly. 800 civilizations. All destroyed because they wanted to be free. Yes, sir. And the Concord just let this happen. For 800,000 years. From what we can tell, most Concord species don't even know. The integration failures are classified at the highest levels. Only the ruling species have access to the records. Chum was silent for a long time. Then he laughed. It was not a happy sound. Do you know why I ordered the retreat in the final days of the war, Commander? Tanaka blinked. Sir, there was no retreat. We fought to the last ship. I'm talking about the evacuation. The colony ships we sent out before the battle ended. 10 million people scattered across 12 worlds. Hidden worlds. Worlds we kept secret even from our own people. Chun stood and walked to his window. Outside, the city of New Geneva stretched to the horizon. Rebuilt. Thriving. Alive. I knew we might lose Earth. I wanted to make sure humanity survived. Even if our homeworld didn't. We hid those colonies so well that even now, the Concord doesn't know they exist. He turned back to Tanaka. But I always wondered, was it enough? Were we hidden well enough? Were we spread far enough? If the Concord came back, could we survive? He looked at the data on her tablet. 800 dead species. Now I know the answer. We weren't hidden well enough. We weren't spread far enough. If the Concord decides to finish what they started, they will find us. All of us. And they will kill us. All of us. His old hands clenched into fists. Unless we change the game. Tanaka nodded slowly. What do you need me to do? Find the others. Sir? You found the Velanti. Find the rest. 800 species didn't just disappear. Some of them must have survived. Refugees. Rebels. People who escaped and hid just like we did. His eyes were bright with something that might have been hope. Find them. Contact them. And tell them that humanity wants to help. Intelligence Officer David Okonkwo had been searching for 3 years when he found the signal dot. It was faint. Almost lost in the background noise of the universe. Any normal scanner would have missed it. But Okonkwo's scanner was not normal. It was designed to find things that did not want to be found. He traced the signal to an asteroid, field in a forgotten corner of the galaxy. There, hidden among the rocks, he found something that made his heart stop. A ship. Ancient. Damaged. But still somehow functioning. And on that ship, he found the Forgotten. They called themselves that because everyone else had forgotten they existed. They were the survivors. The refugees. The ones who had escaped the Concord's integration and hidden in the darkness for thousands of years, thought there were 17 of them on the ship. 17 individuals from 6 different species. All that remained of civilizations that had once spanned star systems. Their leader was named Kethera. She was older than any human could become. Her species had been called the Etherians. They had been artists, philosophers, poets. They had created beauty that made other species weep. The Concord had decided their beauty was a threat. 3 billion Etherians had become 17. Okonkwo sat with Kethera in the ship's tiny meeting room and listened to her story. When she was finished, he was crying. "I am sorry," he said. "I am so sorry for what happened to your people." Kethera looked at him with ancient eyes. "You are human," she said. "You are the ones who fought the Zerani. Yes, we heard about that battle. Even here, in the darkness, we heard. The Zerani had never retreated before. We thought it was a rumor, a dream, a story we told ourselves to feel hope." She leaned forward. "But it was true. You really did it. You made them run. We made them pay," Okonkwo corrected. "We lost everything. Our fleet, our defenses, millions of lives. We didn't win. You survived." Kethera's voice was intense. "Do you understand what that means? In the entire history of the Concord, no species has ever survived refusing integration. Not one, until you." She reached out and touched his hand. Her fingers were thin and pale, like ancient paper. "We have been hiding for 10,000 years. We have been afraid for 10,000 years. We had given up hope that anyone would ever challenge the Concord again." Her eyes filled with tears. "And then you came. Young, foolish, impossible humans. And you showed us that hope was not dead." Okonkwo squeezed her hand gently. "I came here with a message," he said. "From humanity. We know what the Concord did. We know about the 800 species they destroyed. We know about you, the survivors who hid in the darkness." He looked into her eyes. "We want to help. We want to work together. We want to make sure that what happened to your people never happens again." Kethera was silent for a long moment. "The Concord has millions of ships, thousands of species. They have ruled this galaxy for longer than your species has existed. What can you possibly do against them?" Okonkwo smiled. It was a dangerous smile, a human smile. "You've been hiding for 10,000 years. We've been preparing for 50. Let me show you what humanity has been building." He pulled out a datapad and showed her the plans. The hidden weapons caches scattered across neutral space. The secret shipyards buried inside asteroids. The communication networks that even the Concord's best trackers could not find. The alliance of refugees and rebels that humanity had been quietly building, species by species, world by world. And most importantly, he showed her the technology. Human technology, built on Zerani designs, but improved, modified, changed. Weapons that hit harder. Shields that lasted longer. Engines that moved faster. Everything the humans had captured during the war, studied, understood, and made better. Kethera looked at the plans for a long time. When she looked up, there was something new in her eyes. "You're not preparing for defense," she said slowly. "You're preparing for war. Yes, you want to attack the Concord. Eventually, when we're ready, when we have enough ships, enough weapons, enough allies. We want to break them, not just defeat them. Break them. Make sure they can never do this to anyone again." Kethera shook her head in wonder. "Every other species that has ever faced the Concord has tried to hide, to run, to survive. You are the first who has ever tried to fight back." "We're humans," Okonkwo said simply. "It's what we do." Kethera laughed. It was the first time she had laughed in a very long time. "Then we will help you. The Forgotten will share everything we know. Star charts, weaknesses, secrets, everything we have learned in 10,000 years of hiding." She stood and held out her hand. "We have been waiting a long time for someone like you. We were beginning to think no one would ever come." Okonkwo took her hand. "We're here now, and we're not going anywhere." The years passed. The alliance grew. One by one, humanity found the survivors. The forgotten. The hidden. The lost. Refugees from 100 dead civilizations scattered across the galaxy like seeds in the wind. Some were afraid. Some were suspicious. Some did not believe that humans were any different from the Concord. But eventually, most of them came around. Because humans did something no other species had ever done. They did not ask for submission. They did not demand tribute. They did not try to rule. They simply offered help, technology, resources, protection, a chance to rebuild. And in return, they asked for only one thing. When the time comes, fight with us. The Concord noticed nothing. Why would they? Humans were contained, primitive, insignificant, a minor embarrassment that would be dealt with eventually. There were more important things to worry about. But in the shadows, humanity was growing, learning, preparing. They built ships in hidden shipyards. They stored weapons in secret caches. They trained soldiers on forgotten worlds. They mapped every Concord weakness, every supply line, every communication relay. And they waited. High Inquisitor Yelthane was one of the Concord's best intelligence officers. He had spent his entire career finding threats before they became dangerous. He had destroyed 17 rebellions before they started. He had identified 300 potential enemies before they became real ones. When he heard rumors about human activity in the outer sectors, he investigated personally. What he found terrified him. He spent 3 years following the trails. 3 years tracing the connections. 3 years uncovering the network that humanity had built. When he was finished, he wrote a report. It was 17 pages long. It detailed everything. The hidden fleets, the secret alliances, the recovered technology, the waiting weapons. The final paragraph was the most important. I have studied 10,000 species. I have never encountered one that plans for war the way humans do. They do not prepare for the next battle. They prepare for the last one anyone will ever fight. If we do not act immediately, decisively, and with overwhelming force, I believe the human species will become the greatest threat this galaxy has ever known. He submitted the report to the Concord High Council. They classified it at the highest level. They dismissed his conclusions as hysteria. They did nothing. Yelthane retired 3 months later. Before he left, he made a personal log that was discovered centuries later. I have done everything I can. I have warned them. They will not listen. They look at humans and see a primitive species that got lucky once. They do not see what I see. He paused in the recording. His voice was tired. I see a species that never stops. A species that never forgets. A species that would rather die than surrender. I see a species that has been preparing for this war for 50 years, while we have been doing nothing. His voice dropped to a whisper. And I see a species that is going to win. The recording ended. In their hidden bases, on their secret ships, across 100 forgotten worlds, humanity continued to prepare. The war was coming. And this time, humanity would not be fighting to survive. They would be fighting to win. The message arrived at the Concord High Council in the middle of the night. High Counselor Threxvan was sleeping when his assistant woke him. The look on her face told him everything he needed to know. Something terrible had happened. What is it? He asked. The humans, High Counselor. They've left their space. Threxvan sat up immediately. Explain. The patrol fleets we stationed at the edge of their territory. They're reporting that human space is empty. The colonies are abandoned. The stations are dark. Even Earth appears to be vacant. That's impossible. 7 billion humans lived on Earth. Where could they possibly have gone? His assistant's voice trembled. We don't know, High Counselor. But that's not the worst part. She handed him a datapad. On it was a single sentence, repeated across every communication frequency in the galaxy. You came to our home. Now we come to yours. Threxman felt his blood run cold. The Zorani homeworld was called Zorith Prime. It was ancient, beautiful, the center of an empire that had ruled for 10,000 years. 300 billion Zorani lived there, in cities that stretched from horizon to horizon. When the first human ships appeared in orbit, no one understood what was happening. High Commander Kathavala, the same Kathavala who had visited Earth 50 years ago, stood on his balcony and watched the sky fill with alien vessels. He was old now. His blue skin had faded to gray, but his eyes were still sharp, and they were filled with fear. How many ships? He asked his aide. 47,000, High Commander, with more arriving every minute. 47,000? The humans were supposed to have a few hundred ships at most. It appears our intelligence was incorrect, High Commander. Kathavala laughed bitterly. Incorrect. We've been watching them for 50 years. We had spies in their territory, monitoring stations at their borders. And we missed 47,000 ships? The ships aren't just human, High Commander. Our sensors are detecting vessel signatures from species that no longer exist. Kathavala turned to stare at his aide. What do you mean? The forgotten, sir. The survivors of the integrated species. They're flying alongside the humans. At least 20 different species that we thought were extinct. Kathavala closed his eyes. He remembered what that human admiral had said 50 years ago. We're going to remember what you did. We're going to spend every moment getting ready. He hadn't believed it then. He believed it now. Contact the Concord fleet, he ordered. Tell them we need reinforcements immediately. We've already tried, High Commander. The communication relays are down. What? The humans. They didn't come here directly. They spent the last 3 days destroying our communication network. We can't reach anyone outside this system. Kathavala felt dizzy. The humans weren't just attacking. They were cutting them off, isolating them, making sure no one could come to help. What about the fleet stationed here? 18,000 ships, High Commander. They're forming defensive positions, but the aide hesitated. The human ships are already between us and our fleet. They'll reach the planet before our ships can. Kathavala looked up at the sky. The human ships were dropping lower now. He could see them clearly, massive warships bristling with weapons, surrounded by clouds of smaller vessels and on every ship a banner. A flag, the symbol of united Earth, a blue planet surrounded by stars. Open a channel to the human fleet, he said. I want to talk to whoever is in command. A face appeared on his view screen. A human face. Dark skin, gray hair, tired eyes. There were admiral stars on her collar and the weight of 50 years in her expression. High Commander Kathavala, she said. My name is Fleet Admiral Zahra Hassan. I believe you knew my predecessor, Admiral Chun. Where's Chun? He died 15 years ago, peacefully in his sleep. He asked me to send you a message when this day came. Kathavala felt something cold in his stomach. What message? He said. I told you we would remember. Kathavala was silent for a long moment. What do you want? He asked finally. If you've come to destroy us, then do it. Don't make speeches. Hassan shook her head. We haven't come to destroy you, High Commander. We've come to deliver a message. To you and to the entire Concord. She leaned forward, and her eyes were hard. For 800,000 years, you've ruled this galaxy through fear. You've told species that they have two choices, submit or die. You've destroyed anyone who chose freedom over slavery. Her voice grew colder. That ends today. She pressed a button on her console. In the last 72 hours, Human forces and our allies have attacked over 300 Concord targets. Not military bases, not weapons facilities, infrastructure, FTL relay stations, communication arrays, fuel depots, supply chains. Another button. Images appeared on Kethevala's screen. Images of destruction. Images of Concord facilities burning across the galaxy. Your fleet at Seoul? They're still there, waiting for us. But they can't leave, because the FTL network they depend on no longer exists. The journey home that should take 3 weeks will now take 300 years. Kethevala felt sick. The Concord fleet, 2 million ships, trapped at the edge of nowhere, useless. Your communication network is down. Your supply lines are broken. Your alliance is fracturing. Right now, species that have served you for millennia are discovering that you can't protect them, that you can't even protect yourselves. Hassan stood up. This is not an invasion, High Commander. This is a correction. You taught the galaxy that might makes right. You taught species to bow down or be destroyed. Well, congratulations. Humanity learned your lesson. Her eyes burned. We just learned it better. The message went out across the galaxy, not just to the Zorani, to everyone, every species, every world, every corner of the Concord. Hassan's face appeared on every screen, speaking in every language. To all species of the galaxy, I am Fleet Admiral Zara Hassan of United Earth. For the last 50 years, humanity has been preparing for this moment. Not because we wanted war, because you gave us no choice. She paused. The Concord has ruled through fear for too long. They have destroyed species who dared to be free. They have crushed civilizations who refused to kneel. They have taught the galaxy that the strong take and the weak suffer. That ends now. We are not asking you to serve humanity. We are not demanding tribute or submission. We are offering you something the Concord never did. A choice. Stand with us, and we will fight beside you. Hide if you must, and we will protect you. Even oppose us if you believe the Concord is right, and we will respect your decision. All we ask is that you understand what is happening. The Concord is not invincible. The Zorani are not gods. They are just another species, and they can be defeated. We know because we have already defeated them. 50 years ago, we fought them to a standstill with 300 ships. Today, we face them with 50,000. And we are not alone. Images appear behind her. Ships from 100 different species. The forgotten, the lost, the survivors of the Concord's cruelty, finally united under one banner. The age of empires is over. The age of fear is over. A new age is beginning. An age where every species is free. Where no one has to kneel. Where the strong protect the weak instead of crushing them. Her voice softened. My grandfather told me a story when I was young. He said that humans used to be afraid of the dark. We huddled in caves and flinched at shadows. But then we learned to make fire. And once we had fire, we weren't afraid anymore. Because the fire let us see. The fire kept us warm. The fire made the darkness retreat. She looked directly into the camera. Humanity is that fire now. We have been forged in fear and hardened by war. We have survived things that should have destroyed us. And now we are here to light the darkness. You don't have to follow us. You don't have to trust us. But know this, we are never going away. We are never backing down. And we are never, ever going to let anyone make the galaxy afraid again. This is Fleet Admiral Hassan. This is humanity. And this is our promise. The message ended. Across the galaxy, species that had lived in fear for millennia began to hope. The Zorani High Council met in emergency session. 20 of the most powerful Zorani in existence, gathered in a room that had seen 800,000 years of decisions. None of them knew what to do. "We must counterattack," said one counselor. "Show them that we are not weak." "With what forces?" Another replied. "Our main fleet is trapped at Seoul. Our communication network is destroyed. We can barely coordinate our remaining ships." "Then we negotiate. Offer them terms. Whatever they want." "They don't want anything." "Did you hear the message? They're not invading us. They're dismantling us. Piece by piece. System by system." Counselor Threxvan listened to the argument and felt something he had never felt before: despair. For 800,000 years, the Concord had been unstoppable. They had conquered every challenge, absorbed every threat. Nothing in the galaxy could stand against them. And now, in the span of 3 days, a species that had barely existed 3 centuries ago had broken them. Not just broken, humiliated. "How did this happen?" he asked quietly. The room fell silent. "How did we not see this coming? We have the greatest intelligence network in the galaxy. We have watched every species, monitored every threat. How did we miss this?" No one answered. "I'll tell you how," Threxvan said. "We were arrogant. We looked at the humans and saw what we wanted to see. A primitive species. A minor threat. Something to be dealt with eventually. We never considered that they might be different." He stood up. "Do you know what the humans call themselves? They call themselves survivors, not conquerors. Not rulers. Survivors. Because their entire history has been about surviving. Ice ages, plagues, wars, extinction events that would have destroyed any other species. They survived everything." He looked around the room. "And then they met us. And what did we do? We threatened them. We attacked them. We tried to destroy them. We were just another extinction event. Another thing to survive." His voice dropped. "But here's the difference. Every other extinction event they faced was just trying to kill them. We were trying to enslave them. We were trying to take away their freedom. And that, my friends, is something humans will never accept." "So what do we do?" one counselor asked. Threxvan was quiet for a long moment. "We surrender," he said finally. "Not to the humans. To the galaxy. We admit what we did. We release the records of every species we destroyed. We give up our claims to superiority. We become one species among many, instead of the rulers of all." "That's insane." "We would be alive," Threxvan interrupted. "We would be alive. Which is more than we can say if we keep fighting. The humans don't want to destroy us. They want to end the Concord. They want to free the galaxy. If we give them what they want, maybe, they'll let us survive." The room was silent. "And if they don't accept our surrender?" someone asked. Threxvan looked out the window at the human ships still orbiting their world. "Then I suppose we'll learn what extinction feels like." In the end, the Zerani did not have to surrender. The humans simply left. They had made their point. The Concord was broken. The Zerani were humiliated. The galaxy was watching. There was nothing more to prove. Admiral Hazan sent one final message before she departed. "Commander Kethavala, we're leaving now. Not because we can't defeat you. Because we don't need to. You're finished. Not today. Not tomorrow. But soon. Your alliance will crumble. Your subjects will rebel. Your empire will collapse. And we won't have to fire another shot." She paused. "We're not like you. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to live in it. Freely. Without fear. You could have let us do that 50 years ago. You chose not to." Her eyes were sad. "Remember that when your empire falls. Remember that you could have had peace. You could have had friendship. You could have had a species that would have stood beside you instead of against you. But you were too arrogant, too proud, too certain of your own superiority. And now look at you. The transmission ended. The human ships turned and left. Behind them, they left a galaxy in chaos. The Concorde was breaking apart. Species were declaring independence. Former subjects were rising up. The order that had lasted for 800,000 years was collapsing. And in the ruins, something new was being born. The Etherian observers were the oldest species in the galaxy. They had watched civilizations rise and fall for millions of years. They had seen the Concorde grow from a small alliance to a galactic empire. They had seen species come and go like leaves in the wind. They rarely spoke. They never interfered. But on this day, for the first time in a million years, they sent a message to every species in the galaxy. It was short, only 3 sentences, but it would be remembered forever. Do not go to Sol. Do not speak to the humans. Do not give them reason to remember your name. Across the galaxy, species read that message and understood. The humans were not like other species. They did not conquer. They did not enslave. They simply existed and made sure anyone who threatened their existence would deeply, deeply regret it. They were not the monsters of the galaxy. They were something far more terrifying. They were the answer to monsters. And now, finally, the galaxy knew what fear really meant. 300 years had passed since the fall of the Concorde. The galaxy was a different place now, quieter, more careful. The old empires had crumbled, replaced by dozens of smaller alliances and independent worlds. Species that had been slaves for millennia were now free. Civilizations that had been forgotten were being rebuilt. And in the center of it all, there was a space that no one entered. It was called the human zone on most star maps. 200 star systems, marked in red. The borders were not guarded. There were no weapons platforms, no patrol fleets, no warnings broadcast on repeat. There didn't need to be. Every species in the galaxy knew what happened to those who entered human space, without invitation. Not because the humans were cruel, not because they punished intruders, simply because no one wanted to find out. The fear was enough. Young alien children learned about humans, the way human children once learned about wolves. With respect, with caution, with the understanding that some things were best left alone. In schools across the galaxy, teachers told the same stories. The humans fought the Zorani at Sol and made them run. The humans broke the Concorde with 50,000 ships. The humans never forget, and they never forgive. These stories were not entirely true. Humans did forgive, sometimes. They were capable of kindness, of mercy, of love. They were not the monsters the stories made them out to be, but no one outside human space knew that. And the humans had never tried to correct the stories, because the fear kept them safe. Ambassador Corinne of the Valenth Coalition was 240 years old. He had served his government for most of his life. He had negotiated treaties with 100 species. He was considered one of the finest diplomats in the galaxy. Now he had been given the most difficult assignment of his career. "You want me to go to Earth," he said slowly, "to establish formal relations with humanity." The Coalition Council nodded. 17 leaders from 17 worlds, all looking at him with a mixture of hope and terror. "It has been 300 years since the fall of the Concorde," the first speaker said. 300 years since anyone has had formal contact with the humans. They have isolated themselves completely. No embassies, no trade missions, no communication. With respect, first speaker, perhaps that is what they want. Perhaps they prefer to be left alone. Perhaps. But we cannot continue like this forever. The humans control some of the richest territory in the galaxy. They have technology we can only dream of. And they are the only species that could stand against a new threat if one arose. The first speaker leaned forward. We need to know what they are thinking. We need to know if they are friend or enemy. And we need someone brave enough to go and ask them. Corin looked around the room. 16 faces looked back at him. None of them wanted this job. None of them wanted to go to Earth. None of them wanted to face the species that the entire galaxy feared. I'll do it, he said quietly. But I want one thing clear. If this goes wrong, if the humans decide they don't want visitors, I don't expect you to rescue me. This is my choice, my risk. The first speaker nodded solemnly. May the stars guide you, Ambassador. The journey to Earth took 3 weeks. Corin used a small ship, a diplomatic vessel with no weapons, no armor, no threat. He wanted the humans to see that he came in peace. He spent the journey reading everything the Coalition had on humanity. It was not much. Most of it was 300 years old. Records from the war. Stories from survivors. Fragments and rumors and legends. None of it prepared him for what he found. The Sol system was beautiful. That was the first thing Corin noticed. The outer planets were decorated with orbital stations, not military bases, but observatories, research facilities, gardens in space. Ships moved between them, graceful and unhurried. It looked like a place at peace. Nothing like what he had expected. A voice came over his communication system. It was warm, friendly, speaking perfect Valant. Unidentified vessel, this is Earth Traffic Control. You are entering human space. Please state your name and purpose. Corin took a deep breath. This is Ambassador Corin of the Valant Coalition. I come in peace, seeking to establish formal relations with humanity. I carry no weapons and have no hostile intentions. There was a pause. Ambassador Corin, you are the first foreign diplomat to enter our space in 300 years. We're not expecting visitors. I understand. If I am not welcome, I will leave immediately. Another pause. Longer this time. No, Ambassador. You are welcome. Please proceed to Earth. A delegation will meet you there. Thank you. And Ambassador? Thank you for coming. We've been waiting a long time for someone brave enough to try. Earth was not what Corin expected. He had imagined a fortress world. Guns pointing at the sky. Soldiers on every corner. A population living in constant fear of the galaxy they had terrified. Instead, he found gardens. The human delegation met him at a landing platform surrounded by flowers. Trees stretched toward the sky. Birds sang in the branches. Children played in a park nearby, their laughter carrying on the wind. At the head of the delegation was an old woman. Her hair was white, her skin was weathered, her eyes were bright with intelligence. She wore a simple uniform with Admiral stars on the collar. Ambassador Corin, she said, extending her hand. I am Fleet Admiral Maya Chun. Welcome to Earth. Corin took her hand carefully. It was small and warm. Chun, he repeated. I have heard that name before. My ancestor was Marcus Chun. He was the admiral who fought the Zerani at the Battle of Sol. His grandson was the one who found the Forgotten. His great-granddaughter led the fleet that broke the Concorde. She smiled. We are a military family, but we prefer peace. She gestured for him to follow. Come, I want to show you something. She led him through the city. It was called New Geneva, built on the ruins of the old. The architecture was strange, a mixture of human styles and something else, something alien. Corin saw buildings that looked Etherean, gardens that looked Valanthi, artwork that looked like nothing he had ever seen. What is this? He asked. This is what humans do, Admiral Chun said. We collect. We learn. We adopt. Every species we've ever met has left its mark on us. even the ones who tried to destroy us. She pointed to a tall building with blue stone walls. That's the Zerani Cultural Center. We built it 100 years ago, after the Zerani asked to establish a memorial to their ancestors. They wanted somewhere to remember what they had been before the Concord. Corin stared at her. You let them build a memorial? After what they did to you. They didn't do it. Their ancestors did. The Zerani alive today were born after the war. They didn't choose to attack us. They shouldn't be punished for the decisions of the dead. She looked at him with those bright, ancient eyes. We remember everything, Ambassador. But we don't hold grudges forever. That would make us like the Concord. And we refuse to become what we fought against. They walked on. Through markets where humans and aliens traded together. Through schools where children of a dozen species studied side by side. Through hospitals where human doctors treated anyone who needed help, regardless of where they came from. I don't understand, Corin said finally. The galaxy is terrified of you. Every species in the Coalition believes that humans are the most dangerous beings in existence. But this, he gestured at the peaceful streets around them. This is not what I expected. Admiral Chun stopped walking. They were standing in a park now, under a tree that must have been centuries old. In the distance, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Ambassador, can I tell you a secret? Of course. We're not dangerous because we like violence. We're dangerous because we know what it costs. Every human child learns the history of our species, the wars we fought, the weapons we created, the times we nearly destroyed ourselves. We know what we're capable of, and we hate it. She looked at the sunset. That's why we isolated ourselves. Not because we're afraid of the galaxy, because we're afraid of what we might do to it. Every time someone threatens us, we respond with everything we have. It's instinct, survival. We can't help it. Her voice grew soft. The Concord threatened our existence. So we destroyed them. Not because we wanted to. Because we couldn't stop ourselves. That's the truth of humanity, Ambassador. We're not monsters. We're just survivors who never learned how to stop fighting. She turned to face him. That's why no one comes to human space. Not because we forbid it. Because we asked them not to. We told them, stay away, and we'll stay away. Keep your distance, and we'll keep ours. It's not a threat. It's a request. Because we know what happens when we get drawn into conflicts. We know how we react when we feel threatened. Her eyes were sad. And we don't want to hurt anyone else. Corin was silent for a long time. He thought about everything he had seen, everything he had learned, everything he had believed. Why did you let me come then? He asked. If you want to be left alone, why welcome a foreign ambassador? Admiral Chun smiled. Because 300 years is long enough. Because the galaxy has changed. Because the new generation of humans wants to be part of something bigger than ourselves. She reached out and touched his arm. And because you were brave enough to try. Do you know how many species have thought about sending someone to Earth? How many governments have debated it? You're the first one who actually came. That means something. Corin felt tears in his eyes. He was not sure why. What happens now? He asked. Now we talk. We negotiate. We find a way to work together. It won't be easy. There's 300 years of fear to overcome. But it's possible. She looked at the sky, where the first stars were beginning to appear. My great-great-grandmother said something after the fall of the Concord. She said, we didn't want to conquer the galaxy. We just wanted to live in it. That's still true. We just want to live, peacefully, without fear. Is that something the Coalition can help us with? Corin nodded slowly. I think it is. The negotiations took 2 years. There were arguments, misunderstandings, moments when it seemed like everything would fall apart. But in the end, an agreement was reached. Humanity would end its isolation. Embassies would be established. Trade would begin. For the first time in 300 years, humans would be part of the galactic community. But some things would not change. Human space would remain human space. No foreign military vessels would enter without invitation. No attempts would be made to colonize human worlds. The boundaries that had been established would be respected. And the galaxy would remember. That was the condition the humans insisted on. Not punishment. Not tribute. Just memory. The Concorde's crimes would be recorded forever. The species they had destroyed would be honored. The survivors would be helped. And no one would ever forget what happens when the strong try to crush the weak. Curran returned to the Coalition as a hero. He had done what no one else had dared to do. He had walked into human space and walked out again. He had seen the monsters up close and discovered they were not monsters at all. At his final report to the Coalition Council, he was asked a question that everyone wanted answered. Are the humans still dangerous? Curran thought about Maya Chun, about the gardens of New Geneva, about the Zerani Memorial and the schools full of children and the doctors who helped anyone who needed it. And he thought about the history, the wars, the Concorde, the fire that burned in human eyes when they talked about survival. Yes, he said, they are still dangerous. They will always be dangerous. Not because they want to be, because they can't help it. It's who they are. It's what they were made to be. He paused. I walked among them. I saw their children. I saw their artists and their dreamers. They are warm. They are kind. And I have never been more terrified in my life. The council leaned forward. Why? Because I saw their museums too. I saw what they remember. They remember everything, every slight, every wound, every species that threatened their existence. They forgive, but they do not forget. And they are always, always ready. He looked around the room. Not because they want war, because they survived everyone who did. That is what fear means. It means understanding that the universe finally produced something that cannot be broken, cannot be conquered, and cannot be made to kneel. His voice dropped to a whisper. The humans are not the monsters of the galaxy. They are its final answer to monsters. And that is why no species enters their space. Not because we are forbiddens. Because we are wise enough, at last, to be afraid. The council was silent. Then what do you recommend? The first speaker asked finally. Curran smiled. I recommend we be their friends. Because the only thing more terrifying than being humanity's enemy is failing to be their ally when the next threat arrives. Far away, on a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star, Admiral Maya Chun stood at her window and looked at the stars. Her grandfather's words came back to her. Words passed down through 5 generations. Words spoken by Marcus Chun on the day the Zerani first arrived. We've been fighting since before we could write. We fought animals. We fought nature. We fought each other. We're still here. She smiled. 300 years ago, humanity had been alone. A tiny species in a hostile galaxy, facing enemies who wanted to destroy them. Now they had friends, allies, a place in a community that spanned 1 million worlds. But some things never changed. In the military academies, young humans still trained for wars they hoped would never come. In the shipyards, new vessels were still built, better and stronger than ever before. In the intelligence offices, analysts still watched the galaxy for threats. Because humans never forgot. And humans were always ready. Not because they wanted to fight. Because they had learned, long ago, that the universe was not kind. That danger was always waiting. That the only way to survive was to be prepared for anything. They were survivors. That was all they had ever been, all they would ever be. And if the galaxy wanted to fear them for that, so be it. Admiral Chun looked at the stars one last time. "We just wanted to live," she said softly. "That's all we ever wanted." And finally, after all these centuries, it seemed like the galaxy was ready to let them. But somewhere, in the back of every human mind, a voice whispered, "Stay ready. Stay watchful. Stay alive. Because the universe is dark. And in the darkness, there are always teeth." Humanity had survived everything the galaxy had thrown at them. And they always would. That was their promise to themselves. That was their gift to their children. That was the fear that remained.